Harrison, we good? We're good. Ready to go. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Lots of folks in person, maybe not quite outdone by folks who are online. Thank you also for, oh yes, outdone. I saw that. 8 others. Well, thank you everybody for joining in person or virtual. As chair, I'm going to kick this off and call the meeting to order at 1:08 p.m. on Thursday, August 7th. I'll read just an advisory statement here. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded in accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act to ensure transparency and public access to the proceedings. All attendees are considered to have consented to being recorded by participating in this meeting. With that, because we do have some new folks here, I would like to do a round of introductions. We'll start with those who are in person here and then move to those who are online. Should we stick with members first? Or, okay, starting with members.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Richards. I am, I guess, what's the word for it?
Public member.
Public member, that's right. I was going to say personally, I'm a public member, but I am also the executive director of the Maryland Agricultural Education Foundation.
I'm Joanne Chasen. I'm representing Maryland Farm Bureau, Vice President Maryland Farm Bureau.
I'm Megan Todd. I am a public member as well, and I work with University of Maryland Baltimore Perry School of Law through the Agricultural Education Initiative.
I'm Kelly Dudek, also a public member with Cultivate Craft, representing value-added agriculture, agritourism, and craft alcohol.
Hello, I'm Amy Crown. I'm here representing the Maryland Agriculture.
Good afternoon, Clifford Mitchell, Maryland.
Hello, everyone. Josh Kurtz, Secretary, Department of Natural Resources.
Over here. Hi, Rebecca Flores, Secretary, Maryland Department of Planning.
Hello, I'm Joe Malone, Agricultural Programs Manager with Maryland Commerce.
Okay, I'm Jessica Richards. I am a public member, and I also work with Tracking the Council for Southern Maryland.
Good afternoon, Steve McHenry, representing the Maryland Agricultural Resource-Based Industry Development Corporation, much better known as MARBIDCO. Derek Jarbo, College of Agriculture, University of Maryland College Park. Good afternoon, Martin Drew. I'm the Value-Added Agricultural Specialist for the Maryland Department of Agriculture.
Good afternoon. I'm Jacqueline Slade, and I'm the Governor's Summer Intern for the summer, working with Assistant Secretary Heather Barthwell in administration.
Hi, I'm Susan Kivioya, Executive Associate here at MDA.
Harrison Palmer, Executive Secretary for MDA Boards and Commissions. We'll go to the back.
Let's go to the back.
Hans Schmidt, Assistant Secretary of Resource Conservation here at NDA.
Hi, Danny Hill, Maryland Department of the Environment, wastewater permits, and Suzanne Dorsey's waterway instrument back to the park.
Steve Conley, Deputy Secretary of Maryland Department of Agriculture. Michael Hawkins, Assistant Secretary of Maryland Department.
Michelle Gable, Director of the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation, otherwise known as MALP. I'll follow Steve's example.
All of our acronyms are here. Let's jump online.
You want me to read them?
Yes, if you could take that.
In no particular order, just reading down the list. Elise Chalmers.
Hi, Elise Chalmers, Sunbird Services, but representing Chesapeake Ag Innovation Center.
Thank you. Dr. Fernando Morales-Willem.
Oh, hello, everyone. I'm Fernando Miralles-Willem. I am the president of the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, and apologize for not being there in person. I was in Annapolis this morning, but I'm driving cross-state now.
Thank you. Gary Ames.
Gary Ames, Maryland Energy Administration.
Thank you. Holly Porter. Jason Dubow.
Yes, Jason Dubow, Maryland Department of Planning. Thank you for supporting Secretary Flora.
Thank you. Jenny Dempsey.
Hello, I'm Jenny Dempsey, representing the Maryland Association of County Planning Officers.
Thank you. Jessica Hackett.
Hi, Jessica Hackett, Maryland Department of Agriculture, Director of Communications.
Jonathan Cribbs.
Jonathan Cribbs, I'm a reporter at the Delmarva Farmer newspaper.
Josh Parker.
Hi, I'm Josh Parker, the Mako representative. I'd be there in person myself, but I'm actually on vacation this week, so I'm checking in from my vacation.
Mike Sheffield.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Sheffield, Montgomery County Office of Agriculture. Thanks for having me.
Dean Gyro. Secretary Strickland.
Russell Strickland, Secretary, Maryland Department of Emergency Management.
Stephanie Jones.
Hi, Stephanie Jones, representing Maryland Association of Counties.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And was it Josh joining on vacation? You're immediately dismissed. Please tell your family and friends. So before we jump into the formal approval of the minutes, just a quick recap, since there are a number of new members given the recent executive order growing this commission. This was a commission developed in 2006 by Governor Robert Ehrlich, and the mission goes as follows, truncated probably with the help of Gemini or ChatGPT. The commission shall work to promote the economic profitability of agriculture in the state by ensuring that all appropriate state agencies work in a cooperative, coordinated manner with local government and industry groups in planning, implementing, overseeing, and evaluating intergovernmental initiatives related to agricultural affairs in the state. And it has been doing that. Some of the highlights have been overcoming some of the challenges related to the changing face of agriculture, from strictly growing things to growing things and having people engage with them. So there have been fire marshal and planning and permitting issues that this organization, this body, has helped to overcome. It is also responsible for the state's first definition of agritourism, which was an 18-month process to get that done, with a lot of input, and that ended up creating a foundation for about 13 or maybe 14 counties creating their own definition based on the state code. So that this has the opportunity to be very, very impactful for what's happening on the ground in agriculture as it evolves. A quick update on the executive order that was signed last week. The Governor Moore and the Department of Agriculture hosted a signing of the executive order at 40 Vineyards in Baltimore County. And the executive order expands this by bringing in a number of new state agencies that over the last few years have become quite relevant to the goals set forth prior and in the commission statute. One of them is Department of Emergency Management. Why? Because we need food. We don't want food. We don't kind of like food. We need food. And we found that during COVID in particular, it was hard to find food because the food system proved to be a little bit janky if we are relying specifically on and primarily on out-of-state vendors, large distributors, concentrated producers of certain elements of our food and diet, such as meat, where we had a week or two where the system just seized up. And so the Food System Resiliency Council resides within Department of Emergency Management, so we're very excited to have them on board. Department of Human Services. Why? Again, food's a need. You know, we go back to agriculture as food. Also, DHS is responsible for a number of major programs that are directly related to feeding people. And I'll relay a little bit later, but I had a chance to talk with USDA Secretary Rollins yesterday, and there is going to be a priority put back on trying to move our food system from let's just get the lowest bid and make sure people eat to let's actually try to be careful to ensure that we are buying local and focusing our energy and our programs on buying local and growing local. So back to that food system challenge, but think about SNAP, think about WIC, think about all these programs. A lot of them go through human services. Department of Education was added. Why? Because our kids don't know where food comes from. And if our kids knew where food came from, they could, as they grow into adulthood, make better decisions. As they become policymakers, they could protect where food comes from. And so it's incredibly important to bring in education from the ground level. So there were a number of other additions and some shifting and changing as names have changed over the years. The statute still reference the Department of Business and Economic Development, which is now Commerce as of 5 years ago. So the statute needed some cleaning up. Right before that executive order, the governor hosted a roundtable with 7 farmers from Baltimore County. And it was a no holds barred, please be frank, tell us how life is lifing, tell us how the market is working, what are your biggest challenges, what are your biggest concerns. I was invited to participate. I think the term was to moderate or referee. I didn't have to do either, which was great. And 2 of the governor's chief policy staffers were in the room, and that was it. No electeds, no media, no further staff. And the governor heard a pretty frank overview of what's happening in the world of agriculture. And all of the top level themes came up, obviously, about we need to adjust what we're growing, how we're growing to meet different markets. We also need to protect the long-standing industries in the state of poultry and grain, row crops, traditional commodity crops. We also need to diversify. We need to upgrade our permitting, and the governor mentioned the permit review council that resides at the Department of Planning, and there's great work being done there to highlight specific projects and shepherd them through the process, all while asking a bunch of questions about why. Why are we requiring this? Why is the process like this? How can we do this faster? The governor also heard about some major challenges, some controllable, some existential. I'm not sure where you're going to put tariffs on that list, but tariffs and the uncertainty around tariffs and the fact that since we know farmers are smart, they pre-bought a lot of fertilizer, which is their number one input that we rely almost exclusively on external countries to provide. So they pre-bought, they locked it in. Well, a lot of those terms are coming up this fall. And so what happens then, and which countries are they coming from, and who and where will we find that and realign our markets? Exports. It's benefiting some, the tariffs, and it's harming others. And so trying to figure out where the new export country partners will be. They may not be the ones that we've had. There was a concern expressed that through the tariff process, and they learned from the last Trump administration when there were some tariffs put in temporarily, it didn't take long for our largest purchasers to find new suppliers. And one of those suppliers, just for example, is Brazil, which is growing more and higher volume of our top exports than anyone else. And if China used to buy from us, they now get it from Brazil, just as an example. And so when you lose customers like that, long-standing customers, it's very hard to get them back. And I have found that directly as I've been on some export missions with USDA. There are some conversations that just are not being had anymore because the U.S. has proven to be unreliable or more expensive, and they're just not interested in talking with us anymore on certain things. Other things they're very excited about, but on some of our commodities, not so much. The governor also heard directly about some of the other challenges of solar and the priorities that have been put on solar by the state and then by the prior federal administration, where there were incentives to encourage solar companies and farm owners to put solar on their farms. And that has created a bit of an arms race, as it were, to figure out how farmers who don't necessarily own all of the land that they farm. And that was new information to some folks, that farmers don't necessarily own the land they farm. If it was a couple $100 a year to lease that land prior to solar, and then when solar comes in the neighborhood, you're competing against offers of $3, $5, and we've seen now $8,000 per acre per year versus a couple $100. The business model changes. The farmer may not be able to compete. The farmer loses the land. And now all of a sudden, their equipment isn't being utilized. They're not able to pay for the things that they had committed to paying for. And so you could see a future where farmers get outpaced by solar development. While still having folks in the room say, yeah, but we're still for property rights. So if I've got a piece of land that's not performing, I still want to be able to put that into solar. I don't want someone to tell me I can't, but we have to figure out, the proposal was how to make competing with solar more equitable. Whereas right now, agriculture can compete. The other thing that was mentioned by just about every participant, and probably no coincidence that this meeting was held in Baltimore County, is the NPRP power line project that is bisecting many a farm as it crosses Baltimore, Carroll, Frederick counties. And there were some suggestions made by farmers on how to make a project like that more tolerable if it has to happen. And so that feedback was provided. It was a very interesting conversation. Again, first time that some policy folks have heard the impact that this power line will have on some farms. Lots of discussion about what can be farmed under a power line and what can't. And there were some tentative lease agreements discussed where a height of what can be grown underneath. So fruit trees, orchards, nope. Certain crops like taller fiber hemp, nope. And then the question of grazing came up. The question of, well, if I grow traditional crops and this line's going through my property and I'm using a large combine, a large sprayer, can those machines go under the power lines to access the other part of my property? Or have I just lost access doing what I do and what I've been doing for multiple generations? So all of those were brought up and real good discussions were had. And I wanted to thank a number of you for coming and attending. It was a great meeting and always fun to have a good executive order signed. So with that, any questions on the expansion of this commission or what occurred at that signing? Anybody want to add anything? Those of you who were in attendance.
I'll comment if you don't mind. I just happened to speak with several of the participants because we had a county fair in Baltimore County this weekend. And I think they felt heard and felt that it was a productive roundtable discussion. And I also want to say thank you to all those who made this happen. Because I think it was very impactful. It could have just been an executive order signed, but the fact that we were able to spotlight the importance of agriculture, and there was some media there for the actual signing, I think was very productive. And glad that the governor was willing to make his way all the way to beautiful Baltimore County, Long Green Valley, and Baltimore County, and that to make this happen. I think it was awesome. So thank you for everyone for that.
Good feedback. And great fair on Saturday. The most exciting one-day fair in the city.
A lot of work by the volunteers.
Yeah.
But it's also fair.
Anybody else? Okay. The most exciting part of the meeting is the approval of the April 2025 minutes. You laugh, Flip. Dr. Mitchell on the record. Fine.
Motion to approve your minutes, Secretary.
Thank you. Our minutes. Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Or for a thumbs up online. You've got a majority in the room.
Secretary, I have, just for procedure, the only voting members are the appointed members for both public and organizations. Agencies are not voters, they're advisory.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Suzanne.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion from Steve McHenry. There is a second from, a tie, but we'll go with Kelly Dudek on that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much for that. We move, Harrison, if I'm right, to committee reports? Yes. Okay. So I will say, I want to commend the committees for not only convening, but having meaningful discussions. I really appreciate members getting engaged and rolling up their sleeves. I think there are topics, additional topics that we can begin addressing in these committees. It's the first time that GICA has had standing committees. We've had work groups and ad hoc committees about certain topics. The agritourism was one of them many years ago. But this is the first time that we've actually had work that gets done in the interim and then reports come back. So very much appreciate that. I would invite a report by the Environment and Natural Resources Subcommittee.
So the chair, Nadia Shahab, is our coordinator for climate justice, who is probably on vacation this week. But in her absence, a brief report from the May 8th subcommittee meeting and the July meeting as well. We discussed in May the Sunday hunting progress, and I believe Secretary Kurtz are going to give an update on that later, so I'll refer to that. But a brief introduction to the movement from DNR on the Sunday hunting task they have been given by the EDT committee. Review some of the tree planting on state-owned land and what the impact is going to be on the agricultural properties, both adjacent to DNR-owned properties, but also DNR-owned properties where tree planting is going on. We learned that most of that is being prioritized for parkland and not agricultural land, so we were happy to hear about that piece. We discussed a bit of the PFAS impacts on agriculture, recognizing that the PFAS bill will likely come back in 2026. And then got to some exciting topics around giant miscanthus as an opportunity for agribusinesses, crop diversification, and then saltwater intrusion as well. At the July meeting, we did not have a full quorum, so we did not have a full meeting, but we did sort of touch back on hoping to get some updates on Sunday hunting. The meeting was actually simultaneous to the second Sunday hunting meeting, so Paul Pito and Gaston Sturck were both present for that and working actively. We were happy to get a report afterwards, just through discussion regarding some of the progress that's being made. So we're looking forward to hearing some more of that. Something that I think we'd like to get a little bit more of clarification, whether it's today or in the next subcommittee meeting, from DNR in Senate Bill 428, House Bill 506, that the Bay Legacy Act. The discussion for DNR leasing to apply regenerative traditions and practices under the Healthy Soils Program definition was mentioned in the incorporation and redevelopment of the DNR leasing. Didn't know if there was the old coordinator is no longer with DNR, but if there was sort of a better point of contact, or if there's been any discussion on the regs to update the DNR leases for ag land. That's something we can talk about either today or at the next meeting.
Yeah, happy to enjoy it. To that, now you're going to wait to agency updates.
We can wait for agency updates. That'd be great. I think the other piece, and I believe we'll talk about that later, but looking at vegetation management on solar properties, MDA has developed the internal process that we've been looking at agrivoltaics and using that definition to change and put some extra parameters on what an agrivoltaic project will look like, ensuring that agriculture is still forefront in the agrivoltaic discussion. With the passing of Senate Bill 931, things changed a little bit in that process. I think that we're still looking to see a bit of what that's going to mean moving forward. We're really just looking to prioritize that agri is the chief term in agrivoltaic, so that there is productive agriculture going on these properties, or the potential for productive agriculture to be going on, given some of the parameters that were put into place in that internal process. With that, I believe that those are all the updates from the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. If there are any questions, I can answer this.
Any questions? Okay. We can thank you for that, Harrison, on Nadia's behalf. Next up, the Agritourism and Value-Added Agriculture Subcommittee.
Good afternoon again, Martin Prue, Value-Added Agricultural Specialist with the Maryland Department of Agriculture, also the chair for the Agritourism and Value-Added Agriculture Subcommittee. Between the May and July subcommittee meetings, the agendas were relatively consistent with some core themes that we've been working on collaboratively and seeing some progress on. From MDA's perspective, you may have heard us speak on a statewide guidance document initiative that we have been undertaking since February, with publication plans in September. Through this initiative, the Maryland Department of Agriculture has been engaging county to county. Right now, I believe we just tallied 19 of 24 local jurisdictions to include Baltimore City for what we're calling regulatory roundtables, and coordinating with economic or agricultural development specialists at each county level. We are conducting conversations with regulators, both planning, permitting, environmental health, building code, as well as relevant industry stakeholders for those respective communities. To flip the script as it relates to regulatory challenges in the framework in Maryland as it relates to the evolving value-added agricultural sectors. Often in the service providing side, when we get a phone call from a business, it's usually very specific about what challenge they run into in the regulatory process, and often makes it very difficult to triage the entire situation or challenge as a whole. So conducting these county by county conversations has really allowed us to understand better how the state can support local regulation and decision making, not necessarily dictating for these localities, but offering that clarity and consistency that so frequently is asked for through the regulatory process. So this document is going to have some regulatory framework and guidance, more so on just all of the pieces of the puzzle as it relates to regulatory framework as it exists today. And without stating formal recommendations, this document is going to take a glimpse at existing challenges and opportunities in the regulatory framework. A lot of this information is consistent with some of these other efforts that we've discussed in the subcommittee meetings that include some regulatory efforts from our partners at MDH as well as our partners at MDE. At MDH, one of the focal points of discussion has been proposed regulation and upcoming proposed regulation specific to on-farm home processing licenses and some tweaking of that language. And with MDE, it's been some familiarity with the upcoming stormwater management regulation updates and the way that stormwater management interacts with some agritourism components, most specifically the establishment of parking areas for agritourism activities. Now, knowing that those regulations are upcoming, and I'll let our regulatory partners speak to this a little bit, we understand that there are some state trickle-down implications, and so we're going to wait on those regulations to be posted and enacted before we start taking the conversation further on the implications as it relates to the agricultural and agricultural activities specific to some of these regs. I think that covers it for the Agritourism Value-Added Agriculture Subcommittee. I think we said that we would save other comments to see updates, if that's okay.
Great, thank you. Last committee update, labor, education, and development. Harrison.
So in May, we were able to get a presentation from the Department of Labor on apprenticeship navigators and pathways for agricultural jobs, looking at how we can help transition students out of high school directly into the agricultural sector, but also expanding some of that conversation to include more jobs that are ag adjacent, but not necessarily quite considered agriculture as of right now. For example, if you are a hauler, if you're a truck driver in Somerset County, there's a 99% chance that you're hauling chickens, which we would consider an agricultural job. If you're a welder in Garrett County, there's a 99% chance you're welding on agricultural equipment, which would consider that an agricultural job. So Suzanne, I would defer to you for your update later on the project that's been going through with the University of Maryland to sort of expand that reach and tracking ag jobs as they go through. But had a great presentation from the Department of Labor and expanded some opportunities to both within high school, but also postgraduate to connect more students with agricultural careers. We were able to get an update from MSDE on the local food exchange. The local food exchange is going to be considered, I don't believe we have MSD on the call today, but ensure that local food exchange is going to be considered to be a one-stop shop to help connect Maryland producers with institutional purchasing and open that door for purchasing within counties as well for local county school systems, because they each vary in some of their procurement systems and how they acquire food. It's been a challenge for multi-county producers to sell each of those in different software and different processes and different receiving dates and how that all coordinates. So this would essentially create this one-stop shop where farmers will sign up as producers, school systems, state agencies, state buyers will have access as well, and it can make a much more fluid transition for the local procurement of agricultural products. In July, we touched back on the local food exchange. We've been an active partner with the MSDE as well as DGS as this is drafted and designed to make sure that agriculture producers are being considered. In that process, the last thing farmers want is another new inventive tool that doesn't make sense for what their operation is. There's a lot of good software out there that can help guide that discussion as this new tool is being created, whether that's through procurement or internal design. MSDE, on the other side of MSDE, we were able to get a presentation from Assistant State Superintendent Richard Kincaid, as they talked about the program and study updates, predominantly focusing on the agricultural science and horticulture pathways, but also looking at what's the third? Renewable energy. Thank you, Suzanne. And now we can be playing the proactive part. And Suzanne, again, I defer to you for your update for that because you are far more entrenched. But we've appreciated that NDA has sent comments on both of the proposed program and study guide updates, helping to expand and add more content to what's going to be available for students. As we discussed, ag careers are so much more diverse than being on the farm, and being on the farm is so much more diverse than farming, period. So we've been excited to be proactive in that. I think that's the main update from that subcommittee.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of progress. I'm making some notes because there are a few items that I want to bring up on the new business that are applicable, I think, for future committee work. So, with that, would like to jump to agency and member reports and update. Harrison, is there order of things here?
We can go right down the list if that's easiest for you, or we can go around the room. How would you like to?
Let's go around the room. Actually, because we got folks online, if there is a list, if you have a list,
sure.
Let's go through the list.
We can start with departments. Department of Planning.
Oh, right after that. Thanks.
Yes, Pete comes first.
Okay. You well, thanks.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
let's come first.
Thanks for that. So, gosh, so many interconnections. First of all, the interagency coordinated for Maine Council of North, trying to, there was a press release went out that I really want to clarify. Because we've gotten a lot of comments about that, about the notion of expediting. Expediting can be misread by people thinking that needs to go around regulations. That is not the intent. The intent is to absolutely respect regulations that have been put in place, but through better interagency coordination, through looking for opportunities where we can sort of, I think in parallel, be moving things along, looking for ways that we can be, I would use the word efficient and better coordinated in a lot of these processes is really the more appropriate word. And I just really wanted to use this forum to maybe clarify that, because we have had some questions, quite frankly. The press release went out this week, but that is a pilot. So we only have 6 projects, and and we're really trying to better understand how these systems are interacting with each other and ways to improve. And value add is one of them. And so we've also reached out to the Department of Health, who's not officially on the mission to get to that table, because we know that that's a big component of value add industry and how we to sort of find better ways to those types of projects forward. So that's one big thing that we're heading up staffing, but it's an interagency. So we're all engaged in that. And I would just say the other thing is that we just did a series of planner roundtables. Probably, I would say in every region across the state, and there was not a single one where solar did not come up. And so as planners and as folks focused on land use planning and how do we help provide better model guidance, continuing to work with our partner agencies on navigating that space is critical that we're bringing on the right in the mix with. And then, of course, our work overall land use planning levels and understanding land use, practices and where this all fits in. Because from our standpoint, the more we can focus on sustainable growth, which focuses development where it should be and optimizes development where it should be, it puts less pressure on the areas that we probably should not be developing and we should be preserving conservation or agriculture or forestry or fisheries. So that's a central part of how they're trying to advance some of these objectives and that's through our overall system. That through legislature. This is short enough. Happy to have questions later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Harrison asked me to touch on two key issues that I'll jump right into. One is our stormwater regulations. So many of you have been involved with our extensive stakeholder engagement. So the process to develop new stormwater regulations and design manuals that take into consideration changing weather patterns, changing rainfall, vulnerability to flooding, and new best practices to manage stormwater. So specifically, I know in agriculture, it's the ag parking lots that are an issue, and MDE is absolutely seeking a standard plan to do that for other construction projects. So we're looking for a standard plan for ag parking lots. So that will be the long-term solution. The plan that we put forward will be part of the regulatory process. So I'm asking everyone, please be particularly engaged in the public comment period. We want to hear back from you. The plan has resulted from extensive stakeholder engagement, but we want to make sure that it meets your needs. We will issue an advance notice of proposed rulemaking in the Maryland Register on September 22nd. That starts the public review period. So that material will be available. We'll have it on our website. If you need more information about it, don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of my colleagues. So we really are seeking specific feedback from the agricultural feedback, not just about the ag parking lots, about anything that will impact agriculture and how our rules may impede or limit your operations. So really looking to understand that. Also welcome suggestions for improvements that we can consider. CAPO permit, the other issue, the general permit for animal feeding operations. We have about 450 operators that include poultry, dairy, horses. We have completed a statewide listening tour, and the final permit will include the same thing, public comment, notice and comment period. I will note that even though the public comment period has not opened yet, our colleagues at Food and Water Watch have been particularly proactive, publicly discussing issues around siting poultry houses near overburdened or underserved communities, concerns about failing to control ammonia and other emissions for chicken houses. They're absolutely advocating for stricter controls and limits, particularly within the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Many of you have seen those that support. We have invited them to share those comments in the public comment period where they could be considered formally. The permit is under review by EPA. As soon as they release it, should they release it without modification, we will then release the permit for public comment. I would like to be able to give you a date on that. I'm sorry that I cannot control US EPA. So we very much need your comments, your engagement. We know that others in our community will be participating. And last update, not asked for, but in this context, MDE has heard the clarion call that environmental permitting must be modernized and changed. And so we, under Secretary McElwain's leadership, are all in on that process. So in addition to modern digital tools, including online permit application, payment process, and digital visualization of where you are in the permit process, we are working very carefully with our SOPs, with our permit process, finding ways to reduce linearity, do things at the same time. I can tell you that already, 6 months that we have been meeting regularly to do this, we have achieved significant reductions in turnaround time, and that's before our digital technology is up and running. I want to highlight that we have an incredible partnership with Department of IT, great digital leaders who are helping us really engage with our users. So I invite anybody that applies for permits to reach out to me personally, so that I can get you on the user panel so that we can ensure that your needs as a permit applicant are prioritized as we develop new tools and new approaches to make sure that permitting is not a burden to agriculture or any other industry in the state. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Can I ask a quick question on the CABOs? So what happens in the interim where maybe someone's permit expires?
Yeah. So it's not expired, it's administratively extended. And part of the work we've been working with Holly and her team, part of, we are aware that modification of a house or new houses is a challenge. So we're very open to engaging with the industry, finding solutions for that. We know that the solution of an individual permit is not satisfying. So we're actively engaged in conversations with Holly Porter and the industry and working to support ways to report that.
Appreciate that. Related question, Secretary. Is there, MDE have the ability to extend for a short period of time the temporary permit while we're in this period of uncertainty?
Right, that's what administratively extended. So everything that you had to do under the expired permit continues until the new permit is fully approved. So nobody is unpermitted, even though the general permit has expired. You're still permitted. You're still responsible for following the past permit, or the administratively extended permit, and that will stay, and you will be beholden to those conditions, not anything new, not anything unknown, just exactly what came before until the new permit is fully adopted.
Related to that, we're getting loan requests for house construction. Can new houses be constructed during this interim period?
It's complicated. The short answer is yes, but it would require an individual permit. Again, we're trying to find new ideas, new proposals, working with the poultry industry to figure out if there's a way around that.
Thank you.
We have a few, we're going to do questions now, or would you rather hold it till later?
No questions, or if it's
Okay.
relevant to the board.
Relative to the CAFO.
Great.
So, transfer title of property that would be considered new and not allowable, because there have been instances of sales not going through, which is very costly to people who maybe want to retire or others who want to get started in the ag industry.
Understood. Again, I would have to check with the subject matter experts to see if that's a modification. If that could be considered a modification, it would be allowable without going through the individual permit process. We want to work with anybody that finds themselves in a situation where the financing partners or partners that they're trying to sell to are in a difficult situation. So please bring that to our attention, and we will work very closely with them.
I thought she might have hit it.
Well, go ahead.
Mine's different. So with regards to the grass parking, You have to understand, I'm on the side of the room, the air conditioning is very loud. Did you say that there was a date when the regulations were going to be released?
Yes, so, the advance notice of proposed, so the draft will come out September 22nd.
September 22nd.
Second.
Two. Okay. Two.
I've written down 2 seconds, thank you.
It's loud on this.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry. No, but thank you for the clarification.
So back to the CAPO, if I may take a moment. I don't want
It's your meeting.
okay, well, no, it's not really my meeting. What is the timeline that you expect before new permits will be available? Because we're holding up about $30 million and right now it's about a $30 million impact on what's being limited by not being able to build new.
And if there is a path to building new ones, I know it's not an attractive path, so I just want to be clear that there is absolutely a path to building new CAPOs, to new houses. And the timeline is, that the permit is under review at EPA. That is out of my hands. I do not expect them to hold it, but as I say, I don't want to speculate on the time because it's outside my direct control.
I mean, I guess the reports we're hearing is that it could take up to 12 months.
I do not believe that's accurate.
Okay.
Certainly is not our intention.
Okay, and this pathway, how much more complicated is it that you're?
It's an individual permit, which would have a public meeting and a public comment on that permit.
It sounds like it'd be a whole lot more complicated time involved.
Right, but, and again, the problem is the uncertainty of the completion of the general permit, help, break down the EPA's hands, that's one piece, versus the time it will take for the individual permit. And I recognize that is a challenging situation for operators to make.
Yeah, it's time's always limited.
Who is the best contact for questions, ongoing questions about process for extensions and
I think I would direct you to Stephanie Williams, Cobb Williams. She's the Deputy Director of the Land and Materials Administration. And she has her finger on the pulse of this.
Thank you. Any other questions for MDE?
Thank you. Go to Department of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So as Martin mentioned, we are in the process of reviewing draft regulations, which should be out in the near future, I'm hopeful, on on-farm processing. These will do two things. The first is they will raise the cap for on-farm processing, so it's the same as for cottage foods, $50,000 rather than $40,000. And then the second thing it does is it will remove the cap altogether for on-farm processing in which a processor is actually sending their raw agricultural product off-site for processing elsewhere for meat and cheese, which is what a vast majority of the on-farm processors do. So that if they are simply they're shipping it off to be processed, then it comes back and they're holding it in refrigerated state to be sold, that will remove the sales exemption for them altogether, so they can continue to do that regardless of their sales. We're also, and I will say, I really appreciate the interaction, the opportunity to talk with Martin and the committee about a whole range of additional issues that we've discussed in the context of on-farm processing and value-added agriculture. It is part of a more comprehensive look that we're taking at all of our various processes and issues related to food regulation. We are very much looking forward to working with the committee and the subcommittee to promote farm to food, food to farm activity, and looking for opportunities to hear within the subcommittee how we can safely and efficiently assure that Maryland consumers get to eat all of Maryland's agricultural product. So that is an ongoing activity, and We're, I think, in it for the long haul, as well.
Appreciate that. Great news. Questions? Okay.
Secretary.
So I will start with Sunday hunting. Just taking a step back. So we were coming out of legislative session. We were tasked by the Environment and Transportation Committee with facilitating dialogue with many stakeholders around Sunday hunting. We have been working really hard to increase the take through our hunting programs, specifically of deer. This past year, we were able to get 16% more harvest of white-tailed deer and sika deer in the state of Maryland, largely by activating public lands. I think one of the hurdles we really see is access in terms of days. And expanding Sunday hunting, we believe, would be really helpful for us in terms of getting more hunters on the landscape, primarily for deer. So the conversation has been about deer and waterfowl primarily. And we were just watching what happened in Pennsylvania and Delaware with the expansion of their Sunday hunting laws with legalization of Sunday hunting. What we've heard from, we've started to really, I think, achieve some consensus around this, especially in the white-tailed deer front. There is still concern from the equestrian community, but we've been having conversations about potentially time restrictions that would allow them to have certainty that there would be no hunting going on between 10:30 and the hour before dusk, something like that. So we do see pathways forward with deer. I think the waterfowl hunting is a little bit more challenging because we've got a bunch of different, the way waterfowl happens across the state is very different whether you're on the Eastern Shore or Central Maryland or Western Maryland. So that we're going to continue to have conversations around. My team has circulated the detailed notes, and thank you to anybody who was there for 3.5 hours in 95-degree weather outside. It was a very long meeting. There's going to be a third follow-up. We will then present the findings to EDT because this was a request from the legislature, and they'll be potentially moving forward with a piece of legislation. If not, I think we have garnered a lot of support for some expansions of Sunday hunting that will really help us with bringing down the deer population, to support farmers, to support kind of reduction in vehicle strikes, things like that. So those things are moving forward. I do want to just flag in terms of the tools for hunting. One thing that we are seeing very underutilized is our deer cooperator permits. So we have the agricultural permits, the crop damage permits. We have a deer cooperator permit, which is a very high level permit that allows the person who holds the permit to shoot at night, to shoot with high powered rifles, and to shoot with night vision and heat seeking technology. So this is really a deer sharpshooter program that we have. We only have 5 permits in the entire state, but that is something, it's $100 people can get, and then it's open for farmers to bring those with that permit onto their property, which would greatly expand the opportunity for harvest outside the normal parameters that you can see. So, and those shooters are eligible to shoot on crop damage permits as well. So trying to promote some of the new tools that we have to really help the agricultural community, and Sunday hunting, we believe, would also really assist with that, getting us greater access. That would be bow and firearm. Any questions on that before I go to the Bay Lakes? Do you find it a good consensus building tool to hold 3-hour outdoor meetings on hot days? I think sometimes it's important that everybody gets everything out, but I think when it's hotter, people are more likely to get everything out. So I heard from previous people about it. Yeah. Well, the problem was we picked an indoor site and then had 157 people RSVP. And the indoor site, the fire marshal would not have allowed that. So we pivoted, but a lot of engagement around Sunday hunting, which I think is a good thing. So moving to Bay Legacy Act, SB 428, as was referenced before, and there's actually a second piece of this puzzle that I just want to let everybody know about. And that was another piece of legislation the department had, which was HB 717 last year. That codified our land management program and our land acquisition and planning team. So we are centralizing all of our leasing now at the land management program. So there will be a point of contact for all of our leases, ag leases, leases for any of our vendors, et cetera. It had been really distributed across the parks. And what we were hearing, especially from the ag community, is they were not aware of the opportunities for lease in state lands. We have over 16,000 acres that are eligible for ag leases. And what we were finding is like 1 or 2 people would know about it. They would announce the lease at the park itself, and those same 2 farmers would just come back every time and apply. So we are going to expand the notice so we give more opportunities to all farmers across the state to access public lands. We are in the process right now with our Attorney General of creating a template. This would be then standardized across the state of Maryland. We'll be sharing that with FDA as soon as I have it from OAG for their expertise and review. Once that is available and we are authorized to implement this new tool in October, that'll hit the streets. We are looking for farmlands right now that we are not having active lease applications for. We're looking for small parcels that are not currently being utilized. A great example is we do have a pilot in Seneca Creek State Park, a farmer who has a couple hundred acres of row crop. There was a 6-acre parcel that was underneath a power line. It was disconnected. He did not want it anymore, so we were able to do a pilot for a regenerative farmer. They're growing vegetables. The other thing we're looking to do as part of this is to layer on the food resiliency work and actually start selecting sites and parks that are in food deserts. So trying to think about how we're also contributing to alleviating hunger and helping our farmers connect directly to sale. We're also looking at the LEAD program. So being able to kind of accredit that in the ag leases, really looking to be able to on state park farmers markets, things like that. So direct sale from the farms, really leading into the value add pieces too. So all of that might not be fully incorporated in the lease to start, but we're looking at a much larger, much more transparent program at the department, really much more deeply in partnership with Department of Ag than we have in the past. I think really excited about that, and we'll have some public meetings around those as those leases come out. But really want to make sure that any farmer that wants to get access gets the opportunity to bid on the acreage. Yes, please.
So you said that you expect that there'll be a notification going out in October?
We need
with
to
what's available
Yep.
for lease?
Yep, and so October is when we have the authority to do the longer term leases, as long as we get through the legal review from the Attorney Generals. It'll go out in October, but it'll be sometime this fall, might be a little bit later if the legal review gets hung up on anything. But as of right now, it's moving. That October 1, when we have the authority, we'll be able to put them out on the streets. Now, that will not be for all the leased areas because we do have farmers who are under lease right now. That will only be what is available in cycle currently.
So a small suggestion for those leases also to include farmers that are able to have federal nutrition benefits programs as a priority. Wouldn't necessarily be a requirement, but that'll be another way to address food security and ensure resilience if they're already exempted.
Good suggestion.
Question for does AR have guidelines or standards for what regenerative practices are? I know that the language is now with the health soil program is part of like the Gender Veterans Day Legacy Act, but I'm just curious, like, what reference do you have, what it qualifies as regenerative, and how you verify that?
Yeah, so right now we are referring directly to that healthy soil definition. So that is what is going to drive that lease, because that's what's in statute. But other parts.
Yeah, our agriculture commission has been tasked with developing a draft definition of regenerative farming, which I believe that discussion has begun.
Yes. Okay. Yep. So as you're intimately familiar, it's really hard to define regenerative agriculture if we don't define agriculture. And so just to give the public meeting format, I wanted to thank you again for your team's work with creating the framework for what exists currently in statute in terms of where agriculture definitions lie. That's going to be the first task of the commission, is to create that definition of agriculture, and then start taking it a step further to really look into, okay, well, what's going to be regenerative agriculture? Where do we kind of take that those next steps? So that was a bit of the first finding in the regenerative discussion was regenerative we can start talking about, but agriculture we don't exactly list. So we also recognize that there are a lot of concerns with how that's interpreted over, and I think that that's your same concern. When we look at states who have defined regenerative agriculture before, California was, I believe, one of the most recent, and then Texas as well. It was a very challenging process because it means something very different to everyone. So how do we work toward getting all of that feedback to have a comprehensive definition to help support both that program, but also the Healthy Soils program, and serve the by example to put that forward.
And I do ask because I'm working with colleagues at College Park Extension to put together or invite speakers from local tribes about, sort of the tribal practices and what their knowledge base is and their understanding of their practices and how they're compared to like the EMPs that exist now. So definitely want to reach out and collaborate with you as we put that together. And thank you again for acknowledging the interest. It was a pleasure and I'm glad that we were able to.
Thank you. Any other questions for DNR? Okay. Who's up next?
Department of Commerce.
Yeah, hello, everyone. I would just like to briefly call the group's attention to the Maryland Manufacturing 4.0 grant program that is offered by the Department of Commerce. It's open season for the grant, including on Sundays. And this is a grant targeted at the manufacturing sector, but it certainly has relevance to value-added agriculture and food processing as well, where food processors have previously been awarded this grant. And it's a matching grant up to 75% of the total project cost with a maximum award of $500,000. So a pretty impactful sum there. And the grant is aimed at increasing the integration of advanced technologies, sensors, big data analytics, robotics to enhance the productivity and sustainability of Maryland's manufacturing sector. So yeah, this is an opportunity to disseminate and promote amongst relevant parties. Awesome.
Thanks for that.
Oh, it's the 29th of this month.
Thank you. Questions for Commerce?
One more question on that. Is that an annual recurring grant program?
Yes, it has been for the last few years. And I believe there are reoccurring appropriated funds from the legislature that support it up to a certain amount. And I believe for this year's cycle, we are actually over that appropriated amount. So
If someone's interested, I mean, for me to pass this along at my board meeting next week, if someone is interested, where do they find this on the website again?
yeah, so this is listed on the Maryland Department of Commerce website, Manufacturing 4.0 grant.
Yeah.
And there's more information on there as well as recorded webinars discussing the competitive application process as well.
Great, thank you.
Joe, what kind of job creation and retention requirements are associated with this grant?
So this grant just requires that you are a manufacturer in the state as defined by your NAICS code, North American Industrial Classification Code, and that you have a minimum of 3 employees. It's targeted at smaller and mid-sized businesses in the state, that there are no job creation requirements associated with this grant that I'm aware of. But it's just a match.
Great. And I would add an asterisk to the end of anything that has to do with money or grants, and that is, we hope it's coming back, and whether or not we got to use it or lose it. So I would encourage, please Joanne, spread the word on that.
Department of Aging.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. I just want to give an update on the farmers market, how we've been managing that. The Maryland Department of Aging works in conjunction with the Maryland Department of Agriculture. And this year we switched to an all online application, which, anytime change comes after you've been doing something for, 20 years or so, or change is not always, change is change. And so what we did this year was we opened up the application about a month or so early. We opened it up May 19th. We have 19 jurisdictions in Maryland, with 24 counties with 19 jurisdictions that issue out the farmers market cards this year. And we've had several meetings with all of our AAAs or our area agencies on aging, sharing with them about how this was going to work. We've been working with Healthy Aging, which is contracted through the Maryland Department of Agriculture, to provide the service for us, cards and keeping track of the data and all of that. What we found was that last year we started with healthy aging. We gave the AAAs the option of still working with paper, having people come in and issue out the cards to participants at different events. We only had one county last year that actually went online at Baltimore County. This year we changed it. We said everyone has to go online and apply for the cards. However, we did give the different agencies the option of whether or not they wanted the cards mailed directly to the participant, or if they wanted to still hold events. And after they took the names offline, they're still issuing the cards out in person. Again, we had some challenges because you have 19 different places, understanding in 19 different ways. And you know, that is been interesting. So what we've done is we've held several meetings to understand the challenges that they have. One of the biggest challenges that has been brought to our attention are people who are in rural areas who may not have access to broadband, and whether or not they're going to be able to apply online. That's been a challenge. Some of our more rural counties, you know, didn't want that, but we know we're being required to 100% all online. The other challenge is that sometimes, well, some of the people had their cards, but they didn't need a new card, or they issued a new card in the system. Which card works? Which card do you use? Some of the farmers weren't always able to take the cards, or whatever. It's been a myriad of issues. We're still a work in progress. That's all I can say. It's not probably moving as quickly as we hoped it would. Next year we'll be better next year, because this is our maiden voyage with it all being online this year. But one of the things that a colleague of mine and I did a few weeks ago, we wanted to make a video for our staff presentation for all of our staff to talk about the farmers market. So I dressed up like a senior citizen and went out to the farmers. It's really a funny video. It really is. It really is a funny video. And he went with me. You know, he's the Maryland Department of Aging genie who, you know, fix all these issues, stuff like that. But what we learned as we walked through was that not everyone was as knowledgeable about the program as we had hoped. And so we really, you know, we rely on our counties to do the advertising, put the information out there. You know, we only have so many cards available and so much money available, but still we really want people to know, want them out there. Because if you happen to go farmers market, I'm sure you all have. But one of the things, and I've had several conversations with Karen and with Audrey, is that our focus always seems to be on getting the farmers market cards out to the participants so that they can go redeem them. It's $50. They get $50 each and go and redeem them. But this is just my own opinion, my caveology, what I call it, is that we've got to really put something more into incentivizing the farmers to want to participate. You know, as I mentioned to one farmer, I said, he didn't have a sign up, that he had to make a pass, but he was enrolled in the program. And I said, so you're missing out on so many people who would come to you for the $50 to spend, you know. So I don't know Secretary Addicts, how we can make that happen. Get the farmers more interested. I mean, those who are interested are good. But there's so many out there that when I would go up to them and I would ask them where they were from, they were like not far. And I'm like, why aren't you in this part of freedom? You know, and I just don't know why, but I know it'll be good.
We'll push it.
Yeah.
We'll make that a priority.
Yeah, we've got there are too many farmers that can be a part of this program. I just not sure what it is, what their hesitation is or what, but we are, we still have a few cards that, the way it works is that the counties are each distributed a dollar figure, which equates to a certain number of cards. At the end of this month, we will reevaluate and see if we have cards left from certain, from counties, and then those counties that have wait lists, we will reallocate those cards to those counties, which is much easier because before you can send all that stuff in, we'll have to ship all that out. So we are looking to do that. The cards are good until November, and in November, I do know, having boots on the ground before, people do tend to like to hold on because they like to buy. Thanksgiving, yeah, they do like to do that. But yeah, it's progress, but change is slow. People know what's going to change. Yeah.
Okay.
First about the year of the benefits for seniors, just the work that I've been doing in collaboration with MDA, Sarah, Audrey, and Katie, and SNAP-Ed, Jocelyn at SNAP-Ed, and other partners, doing a lot of sort of outreach to get more farmers in to authorize to accept SNAP and these other benefit programs like SNP. And we're working on a resource to publish this fall. He understands the pressure. Something goes online, but we've also heard feedback about getting the farmers out to seniors and like trying to figure out what are effective partnerships between local agencies and the farmers and community organizations and senior centers. And like that's been key, like just from hearing back from the farmers, like it's really key for them to find a successful model to actually reach those customers and SNAP-Ed resources that are there right now. And we're going to hopefully have still available forward, but like signage for the farmers, so like, and strategies for marketing at the table and packaging and things like that. So I've heard similar feedback, but I've really seen success stories from farmers about building those partnerships with them.
Yeah, I've seen those too. I know when I said I was moving around work right here in Anne Arundel County, and one of the things when I used to cold call farmers and ask them to come that I knew in the program, and I would get the response back like, well, if you can't guarantee me a certain dollar figure, it's not worth my time to come. And I was like, we can tell other people and have the community come in, because you're in a parking lot, you got people come. And we have some farmers that are super good, that are really super good, but some of the other ones is really just trying to get into it.
So I think you touched on, were you finished?
I have one more question, but it's on different topics again.
Okay, so, and I'm not familiar personally with this program, but I do know a lot of produce farmers that attend farmers market. So, if you can bear with me, the idea is that you're getting the recipients of these cards can go to any farmers market and utilize them.
Yeah, right. They can go to any farmers market. They can only redeem the cards
with certain farmers.
That are in the program.
So, and it sounds like you have started a process of polling the farmers to find out what they're looking for on their end for this program. I mean, this sounds like a great program, but if it's not working for the farmers, you're not getting enough farmer participation, then we need to find out why that is.
I think part of it is, and this is my own standard on the outside, would be in agriculture. It's that when we're switching things over to being more electronic, that's what some of the hiccups before it used to be all paper, you know, sign, check, and, you know, things like that. But as we move towards being, more electronic, that was, again, check.
I mean, if you're pulling them and asking them what's preventing them from participating? And if that's not where you're headed, then I think you need to do that. And you need to pull the farmers that should be participating and are not, and find out why they're not, and then see if that can be worked out.
Yeah, we can do that because we're in touch with a lot of the farmers.
So, right, one of the issues is the speed of the process, so hopefully what you're working on right now will help with turn.
And some frankly don't understand government programs.
Or
We'll have
another
something that
government.
Yeah. But that's where we, the farmers are happy, it's really, a great program, and it's $50. So I mean, and then this, you know, as things keep changing, $50, they only do 120 now, but it's still. You get a lot of good stuff. That's.
Thank you. We'll take one question, then we have to move on.
It's not a question, it's just a statement of the order. It is National Farmers Market Week, so just so that everyone knows, all through Sunday, so make sure to go out and answer.
That was a statement we requested.
Sort of, and it's on a different topic altogether. This is more a general question for you, because I have not been to the Department of Aging location, not sure if you cover this, but sort of like on the other side of things for aging farmers, is there much outreach from your department to, you know, farmers in rural counties or wherever they may be about like mental health or estate planning or business succession planning, and like how they can start beginning that process if they haven't already?
And my particular area in aging, but we do have behavioral health specialists. And anybody who needs things, we're always open to provide support to anybody in the perspective of it. We do have some initiatives around behavioral health.
Thank you. Okay, I see our speaker has arrived, Lisa Bixler. Before we get there, we've got a few more quick updates.
Yes.
So I hear.
Yes. Next is Gary Aim with the Maryland Energy Association Administration.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Sure can.
We're trying to get a quick bite. Well, thank you for the previous speaker to allow me to have a quick bite. I just want to bring up a few things here. Is that MEA is always standing ready to help our farmers. Either you are in the Western Maryland and in the central area or Eastern Shore. I like to highlight a couple of things that there's possibilities that MEA is willing to do, is willing to assist. As you all know, that MEA does have grants to provide through application, also rebates. And one of the cool programs that I want to bring up is, and I think that might be something farmers can think about. And again, everything is all optional. There is a grant we just awarded out in Worcester County, what allows the school, which is the Pocomoke Elementary School. Now, this is just an example. Oftentimes, when you think of innovative way to help farmers, where we are replacing propane cooling system with energy efficiency electric air handling units. Also, a great possibility is that those who are interested, there's a possibility to do some replacement of natural gas HVAC system, and you can focus on electric heat pump system as well. And however, one of the things I want to bring up is that through the open innovation program that I run, also through the biomass, I would like to hear from farmers is that oftentimes what we hear that agencies sometimes tell farmers, you know, what the agency is looking for. The open innovation allows farmers to tell us what exactly that you would like to do from an energy project. And then you can always reach out to me, gary.am@maryland.gov, we can have that preliminary conversation to find ways that MEA can help and assist you to reduce your costs when it comes to energy assistance. So we are here standing ready to assist where we can. Now, we still have biomass program if you're interested. We have our sister agency with Maryland Department of Agriculture, where we the energy funds, technology funds. So, I mean, there's a lot of great things happening at MEA, and I do understand that there is conversation about the solar aspect of it. But there's other things that you all can do, and please reach out to me in ways that I can assist, that I can help you all. And I hope providing those two examples, just an examples where other part of Maryland finding ways to be innovative. But if you find other ways yourself, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to assist you where we can. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we've got Dean Powers from the University of Maryland College of Ag and Natural Resources. I don't know if you wanted to give a brief update, Dean Powers.
Hello, thank you. This is my first meeting. I don't have an update, but I do know that Darren and Jinhee are present. I don't know if they want to give an update on behalf of the college.
I'll be happy to do that. Thank you, Dean Powers. First of all, I was going to announce we have a new dean, so we're excited about that. Relative to that, Dean Rudy, he retired effective June 30th, so that was an important transition for us. And going forward, Dean Powers will lead the college. We have lost staff ed funding, and not exactly sure what the repercussions are totally yet, but it will be a significant loss in the number of people out across the state. Right now, we currently have 72 faculty and staff who work in that program. So we're working to place some of them within our organization as far as jobs that we have open if they fit, and try to help them with this transition. We also had this last week, our extension workforce development interns had their final hurrah or celebration. And so we had 10 students from 8 different universities across the country. All of them were Marylanders, though, coming back home in many cases. And the last thing, League Maryland is recruiting for their next class right now. So class 14, that is through October 1st, I believe it is. So if you have interest in that, please contact Susan Harrison or me, and I'd be happy to get the information for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren, and welcome again, Dean Powers.
Next up, we've still got Dean Cairo from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore School of Ag and Natural Sciences.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for including UMES formally in the commission. We absolutely appreciate it, and hope to be able to contribute positively to the business of the commission. On the UMES end, just wanted to report that we're still making progress with the vet school. Things are moving forward, and at this point, we are still looking at everything positively and looking forward to the partnerships that we'll be able to establish with MDA, particularly the diagnostic labs in terms of once things get operational. We are also looking forward to the completion of our new Ag Research and Education Center, which should be completed around December. And what's exciting about this is the opportunities that it creates for us to do, to expand our research capacity, particularly in the areas of genomics, looking at breeding, specialty crops, especially from a breeding perspective, work on water quality, and also broadly speaking, work on microbiome, particularly in context of soil. So we are excited about that. On the workforce development side, we're also excited that we continue to see continuing interest in enrollment, particularly in the ag fields. In fact, our ag program has grown to a level I have not seen all the years I've been here as dean. So we're pretty excited about that. And one of the topics that was discussed earlier, I see the Committee on Ag Tourism. I do want to also mention that UMES has invested heavily in ag tourism extension, and I hope we'll be able to capitalize on what's happening here, even inputs into the Committee on Ag Tourism. Otherwise, those are my updates from UMES, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Kyer. We're very happy to have you engaged.
And last but certainly not least, Dr. Morales-Golem from UMCIS.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity. This is my first meeting, and just recently appointed. So first of all, UMCIS and myself appreciate the opportunity to serve in this commission. Looking forward to interacting, particularly through the environmental angles of agriculture and food production, food systems. And I always share with my students, I've been an environmental scientist practicing environmental science for over 3 decades, and the way humans most affect the environment is through food production. So there is definitely a link at the hip between the environment and agriculture, and I look forward to contributing on that angle. Again, thanks again, and I want to keep my update short given that I'm driving, so I'm trying to think and drive at the same time.
Always dangerous. Thank you very much. I'm very glad to have UMCIS officially engaged as well. Okay, before we get to Elisa to close us out, unless there is other old business, I would add to updates. If there's anybody else that has updates they'd like to share or anything they'd like this commission to have on its radar. Going once.
You want to do things now or do things now?
Let's do that now. And then if we'll end with, I just want to make sure Elisa has 10 to 15 minutes of the closeout to speak. So we'll end on a high note with a great presentation.
Sure. I'd like to bring something up.
Kelly Dudak.
Kelly Dudak with Cultivating Craft. I just wanted to raise an issue that's continued to plague Maryland's farming community. One that's been acknowledged repeatedly, discussed in work groups for 2 years now, but still remains unresolved. And this is the reassessment of agricultural properties by the State Department of Assessment and Taxation as commercial properties, based not on a change in land use, but often because the farm appears to be profitable. We're seeing farms that add a retail component or welcome visitors for agritourism or create value-added ag products being penalized for trying to stay viable. It just seems like if the farm looks successful, then it's suddenly labeled commercial and taxed accordingly. And I just want to be clear that farming must be profitable, as we've heard everyone say in this room today, in order for Maryland's farms to stay on their land. And profitability is not a sign that a property is no longer agricultural. It's a sign that the farmer is doing what they need to do to survive. Farming is by nature commercial. This has been something that this industry, we have had trouble with for years. Are we agricultural? Are we commercial? Farming is commercial, but it's also uniquely vulnerable. No other industry has a combination of risks that we do, weather this year, extreme heat and monsoon season, pests, invasive species, regulatory burdens, increasing pressure from development. There's a reason the agricultural assessment exists. It's in recognition of that critical role that farmers play in our economy and our environment and our identity as a state. Undermining that by inconsistently or unfairly applying commercial assessments to agricultural properties chips away at Maryland's agricultural base. Despite the efforts of work groups and advocates, this issue continues to fester. Meanwhile, farmers are dying by 1,000 cuts. Most of those cuts we cannot control. This is one that we can control. This commission was brought together to bring together state agencies and the agricultural community to solve problems just like this. As it's done in the past, I hope it will do it again. I've now been a part of this commission on and off for almost 20 years. I've seen this commission at its best put forward really powerful recommendations and actually advance the industry. So today, I just would formally asking the commission to make resolving this issue a priority. Not another conversation, not another work group, but a real actionable recommendation that leads to guidance or legislation that protects farms who are engaged in modern, diversified, and responsible practices from being penalized through inappropriate tax assessments. Yeah, motion. Is that a motion? That whole thing? It's a motion. I would like to make that a motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay, I was ready to do that. I was ready to do it. So you've got a whole bunch of seconds.
We have a motion and a second, and since none of us officials can vote, we're gonna watch this happen. All in favor? Or
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm just gonna add, is this something that should be assigned to the value added, tourism subcommittee or
Well, I
full commission activity?
Frankly, I think probably both. I mean, the quickest action will be sending it to the committee to formally chart a path. And then the commission has the opportunity to bring in guest speakers, guest agencies. I know SDAT, there's a new director there, so it might be nice to hear from the new director on this, but thank you for bringing that up. And you've said a lot of great things, so if you could copy and paste that and send that, we'd like to use that. That was a great argument. Yeah, any other formality with that?
No, I'd say if I could add, I mean, because kind of labor and relevant committee, because we have the agricultural value added ag committee, I think both of those would be a really good place to host that discussion. So maybe if you and I could chat before the next subcommittee meetings, it could be something that could be discussed repeatedly. And then at the next subcommittee meetings, see if we can consolidate that into one formal proposal, legislation, whatever the end product would be. But that way there's a couple of different angles to make sure that it's fully being addressed. But let's, I think, connect offline to get that prepared for the next subcommittees.
That's better than what I thought you were going to do, which is propose a tax committee. Which no one will want to serve on, right?
It's like my other hand on the formation of committees.
A bunch of delegates, yeah.
I also have one tiny report just from the value added ag world
Please.
that I think this committee might like to hear. You know, things have changed. We all know that. But we have seen a dramatic shift in craft alcohol, agritourism, and value added, specifically in their priorities for years and years have been legislative. That shift is now promotion. Like they are trying to get people to see them, to respect and buy Maryland products. And I know we all spoke about it today. It, to me, has just been this sore spot for Maryland where the buy local just has not caught on to the majority of Maryland for some reason. But we're seeing that our makers are desperate for it right now. So anything that we can all do to come together to help promote Maryland ag.
Thank you. That is a multi-agency charge. Other updates, general updates, tasks for the commission, Steve?
Just very quickly, we have once a year this small but very popular producer cold storage equipment grant program that's on the street right now.
Great.
The deadline's August 27th. The funds not only farmers, but watermen are eligible. So matching grants up to $1,000. Not a lot of money, but really makes a difference for a lot of producers.
That's great. You mentioned waterman, which is a trigger word to remind me that yesterday, the Secretary of Agriculture, USDA Secretary of Agriculture, announced two new programs, a $6 million competitive grant for seafood processing, specifically for blue catfish. Our sense is specifically for Maryland, but we'll wait and see. And then secondly, a section 32 designated exemption, which will allow, it will be a cooperative agreement with Maryland, state of Maryland MDA, where we will be able to purchase $2 million worth of blue catfish at the market moving, and then take that product and give it to communities that need it. And there was a sampling yesterday, and everything we tried was fantastic.
I will dovetail on that, and Secretary Kurtz will be interested in this. Our Waterman's micro loan program, as of July 1st, is not only available to well-experienced watermen, but now beginning watermen, with loans of up to $40,000, which by equipment here, boat engines and boats are all eligible for micro loans under that program. So very much Secretary Kurtz. That. And of course, we're hoping some of these watermen are now.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Let us introduce, unless I'm seeing anything else online, we're good, Harrison? Introduce Elisa Fixler, who has been a food policy intern here at NDA. She is studying food policy at Boston College, and is a Baltimore native, and is extremely interested in food as medicine, farms as medicine, which is a concept that Maryland can lead on, because we've got the institutions, we've got the support networks, we've got, I think, politics that would support this, but we can always use education on it. So when Elisa is ready, I will turn it over.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who I have not met, my name is Elisa, and I've been working as a food policy intern for the Department of Agriculture this summer, focusing specifically on food as medicine. So food as medicine has become a huge buzzword recently in both state, federal, and even apps like Grubhub and Uber Eats who have used the term food as medicine to push up the product. But food as medicine encompasses a lot of different interventions, health interventions. That includes produce prescription, where patients can receive vouchers to use at farmers markets and grocery stores. It can also be produce boxes that are left at patients' homes or available for a pickup location, and medically tailored meals, which are the most popular option, which are made in conjunction with nutritionists who look specifically at patient disease state and figure out what patients need the most from their food. As we can see here, Massachusetts has one of the most premier food as medicine programs, and this is because they have Medicaid funding for their program. A recent study done from UMass in 2025 indicated that based off of over 20,000 participants that are receiving direct provision of food through their Medicaid and CHIP program, there was a 23% reduction in hospitalizations and 13% reduction in ER visits. So that indicates not only a help for our patients and our patients' health, but for our already overburdened healthcare system. Based off of that information and information pulled from North Carolina, which also has a really amazing program, Tufts determined that if every patient who was eligible on Medicaid and CHIP received a medically tailored meal, there would be huge cost savings for our government. So there are two main ways that this is done from a state level, but there are countless incredible nonprofit organizations who are doing the work already, specifically in Maryland, Food and Friends. If any of you were at the cookout, they do Cooks with Lawn, and Movable Feast, which is in Baltimore, focusing on medically tailored meals. But the best way that states have helped support these programs is through an 1115 demonstration, which allows states to pilot programs like housing or transportation that are budget neutral, that help patients' health, but aren't necessarily already covered by Medicaid. So some states have done this and done this through a direct provision of food, and their 1115 waiver has had really great results. Another way that states have done this that is less encompassing and less work for our health department is in lieu of service amendment payment pathway. So this allows Medicaid managed care organizations to substitute some of the money that they would spend on more costly initiatives like emergency department visit care and hospital care for programs like medically tailored meals and food as medicine. That's just up to the MCO, the managed care organization, if the people can prove to them that it's a cost-effective model. So I had the opportunity this summer to talk to a lot of really amazing programs across the country. And one of those is Trinity Health in Michigan. So Michigan just passed an in lieu of service amendment that requires that 30% of their providers, their in lieu of service providers, be locally based. So in Michigan, that means Trinity Health. Here in Maryland, that would mean something like Movable Feast or Food and Friends. The way that Trinity Health has done it is they've sourced every single piece of vegetable or fruit that is going to patients from local farms. And 24 out of 25 of those farms are from farms that are 50 acres or less. So they focused on small farms, they focused on some women and minority-owned farms and supporting those farms as well. They do this through farm stands in their hospitals as well as produce cabinets in their hospitals so that patients can have access to that food when they are already visiting the hospital, or they can get them delivered to their home or pickup location. What you can see here, I don't know how many people can see it, but we have, this was a survey done with just some of the farmers that participated in the program. And out of 11 of them, all of them increased their gross sales. And so many of them received a lot of great fiscal benefits. Besides the fiscal benefits, both patients and farmers expressed their gratitude of working with each other. Farmers working with patients and seeing how their produce has a really great impact on the health of their patients and what their produce can do. And also patients who got to interact with their local food system in ways they otherwise would not have been able to. So the project that I've been working on is in conjunction with the Medicine for Greater Good at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. They're a group of physicians, community health workers, economists who've been working on community-based population interventions, specifically in Baltimore City, but around the state as well. And so food as medicine kind of fits into their wheelhouse. So although a Medicaid 1115 waiver is kind of the big thing that a lot of nonprofit organizations are looking for in the state, it's a lot of work. But we already have a diabetes prevention program 1115 waiver, which provides funding for patients to get involved in an education program that has a great ROI for our healthcare system. Our proposal, as this includes funding for screening and telehealth that we were working on, was an in lieu of service payment pathway that would allow MCOs to choose to add nutrition prescriptions to the already existing diabetes prevention program patients who are already enrolled and have already been screened. This would be really great to helping streamline patients into these organizations. So Movable Feast and Food and Friends, who we've discussed this with, they already have contracts with MCOs that they've had to seek out on their own, and they are limited. So something like this would help streamline that process, would allow them to have access to more MCOs, and would allow them to reach more patients, which is ultimately the goal. So currently, MGG, the Medicine for the Greater Good at Johns Hopkins, is gathering their IT data on their diabetic patients, type 2 diabetic patients specifically, although they've done a lot of work on ICU patients as well, to pull data and make something that is a model of what is needed in Maryland based on what we already have from Hopkins. We've also been communicating with some of the local organizations to figure out ways to include our local producers as much as possible without actually impacting as much the amount of people that they can reach with their program. So I think food as medicine has a great future here in Maryland. I just got off of a call. The reason I was late was with the health department talking about this program and talking about their new upcoming AHEAD model, which is the new healthcare model that is going into effect here in Maryland. And they have some funding that they are trying to direct to a food as medicine intervention, but they don't know how. So that's what we kind of had a discussion with, connecting Hopkins, connecting agriculture to what they're already doing and figuring out how we can bring all the necessary people to the table in order to actually make this AHEAD model funding really successful, as some of these people have worked on food as medicine interventions prior to Baltimore City. Additionally, Movable Feast and Food and Friends are creating a Maryland Food as Medicine coalition. And they are ultimately going to be advocating for an 1115 waiver, as kind of all nonprofit organizations across the country have that are focusing on food as medicine have done. But Hopkins is getting involved. I will say involved, and hopefully we can get more agriculture involved, because as all of us know, our farmers are the beginning of our food. And finally, as we've talked to some of these organizations, they've all expressed the same barriers that you all know very well to getting involved with our local food system. cold storage, transportation, et cetera. But they've also all talked about how invested they were and how they wanted to continue these partnerships and stay invested in the food system and continue these conversations and hopefully find ways to mitigate some of those impacts. For example, we talked to Food and Friends who are getting their sweet potatoes from University of Maryland, which is helping them store them. So continuing to figure out partnerships like that to get our local producers involved with some of these really great programs. So yeah, I hope you all believe in food as medicine as much as I do, and hopefully we can kind of continue making Maryland in the spotlight of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. First and foremost, you can be wherever you want to be. You can see.
Okay.
I will say two things, and then I'd love to turn it over. We've got a hand raised. First of all, the agricultural community knows that food is medicine. The ag community knows that the healthier the food, the closer to you it comes from, the less processing, the less transfer, storage, I don't want to say decay, but if you've had lettuce from a farmer's market versus lettuce from a bag in a grocery store, even the freshest lettuce from a bag in a grocery store is nowhere nearly as nutrient dense as you could get fresh. And so starting to connect these dots where we are spending, did the secretary yesterday say, if anybody who was there with me, $400 million a day or a week in food subsidy programs, and only a very small percentage, I think the number was 4 or 5% of that, is coming from local nearby sources. The rest is coming from the larger food system, meaning we are paying, not to mention any names, but the big distributors, this money to feed folks rather than farmers markets, farmers, et cetera. So think about the money we're spending to feed kids in schools, et cetera, et cetera. So if we could organize it a little bit better and understand, as Alicia just said, that from the start, if we're eating better, healthcare costs go down. Because, by the way, the government is also paying for that. So we're paying to feed people, not always as healthy as it could be, and we're paying to quote unquote fix them on the back end. Let's fix it from the beginning. So I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing Lisa testify on something this coming session. I applaud that. I'll bring the popcorn. Local. There's a question.
Yes, Eugenia.
Hi, yes. Hi, my name is Eugenia. I work for the Department of Human Services, and I'm the Assistant Director for Sunbucks. I do have experience with food as medicine from my prior role. I'm a big fan of the program, and it's generating amazing evidence and impact. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions. One is, there is a strong focus on Medicaid, and that makes absolute sense. But I'm wondering how the program, and if the program can also be kind of adjusting and looking forward to some of the changes to Medicaid and some of the fact that given the latest congressional bill that just passed, some participants of Medicaid might be losing their coverage. However, they could still benefit from this amazing program. So that's my first question. My second question would be just to kind of, I would love to discuss maybe in a separate call with the FIM team around potential collaboration between Sunbucks and FIM, because a large proportion of the children that we directly certify have Medicaid. So I think it will be an interesting opportunity to collaborate. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's why we are trying to focus on including the AHEAD model in this, as we see all of these costs, all of these people who are using their Medicaid services, including the AHEAD model, which already has funding, could be a way that we could look at our Maryland, what we've got going on, and try to figure out how we can get that funding without relying on something like a Medicaid 1115 waiver or an in lieu of service payment pathway. That answers your question at all.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions for Lisa? Other than when can we start?
Yeah, keep it up. Let's move forward. That's great.
Okay, open comment, close it out.
Yeah, do you want to open for public comments?
Let's open for public comment in the 3 minutes we have left. Any public comment, any other suggestions, comments? I was in a meeting this morning where Secretary Kurtz gave us back, I think, 45 minutes. 47 minutes. I give you 2.5 back. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Much better than you can.
He is much better in every respect. That was a motion. Is there a second to adjourn? Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.